Hi friends, Shay here. So it's been a minute since I've talked about the Spellmonger series by Terry Mancour, so I am here to talk about the next 3 books in the series, which are books 2, 3, and 4. If you're interested in what this series is about, I do have a review for the first book in the corner there, so you can go ahead and check that one out. And Terry Mancour was so nice. He found out I'd done my review, and he sent me autographed copies of the first 5 books in his series. And I just felt so honored and privileged. And he sent me some other goodies. I do have a link to that video as well if you're interested in what he sent me. But it was just really sweet that he reached out and shared my video. And so I appreciate anybody who came to this video because of Terry Mancour and my previous review. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive in. There will be chapter breakdowns if you're interested in specifics for any particular book. I will have them broken down below. So first up, we're going to talk about Warmage. Warmage is the second book, and it immediately follows where we leave off in Spellmonger. Now, in Warmage, I have to say that this one has been my least favorite thus far in the 4 that I've read in this series. I am partway through High Mage as well, so you'll be seeing a review for that soon. But in Warmage, we have a dual timeline, and the timeline is interesting because it's not like far in the past and then your present time. You have present time and then like a year ahead, and you're kind of going back and forth and meeting in the middle about what's going on. Eventually, the timeline that starts right after Spellmonger ends does meet up with the current timeline, and there's things that have been happening. So essentially, the war with the Gravani is obviously progressing, and Minolin is in the field on the front line. He has sent Alia home to his parents, who is his fiance, and has sent Tyndall, his assistant, with her. And so he keeps tabs on what's going on with Alia and his family via Tyndall. And that leads Minolin to be a lonely man, and when Min is left alone, Min is tempted to do bad things. So there is some political alliances that are made with a particular group of people. This leads to there being a king over all the land, which puts Min in power as well as the first Mage Lord. Now, I'm not going to say too much about the battle that's going on, because I feel like, yes, we see something fairly interesting and big within this book, but with where I'm at now in the series, like, it's just going to continue to progress and get darker, get more gritty, and you're going to be fighting bigger and more powerful beings as you go along. So I don't really have too much to say about Warmage in particular, because it was my least favorite thus far, but it is still a solid book. I think the way Terry Mancour used the dual timeline was really well done. I had to make sure I was in the right timeline as I was reading chapters, but it falls into a pretty easy rhythm, so that wasn't overly complicated or difficult for me if you're reading this. I do recommend the audio. As always, John Lee is the narrator, and he does a fantastic job bringing Terry's words to life, and it's just a really excellent way to enjoy them. The woman that Min slept with, who was not Alia, his fiance, was Lady Isali, who works directly with the now queen. And that comes into play more in the future, but they have a very sexual relationship, no strings attached. She knows he's engaged, and so she knows that he won't ever commit to her, even though she really wants him to. But Isali is going to play a bigger part as the series goes on, from everything I can tell and I can gather. So getting to know her is going to be really good, as well as the family, and that's all I'll say about that. Now we're going to move on to Magelord, which I think has been my favorite in the series thus far. In this, Minolin is finally settling into his lands and establishing himself as a Magelord, and that is essentially what this book is all about. I am only talking about the canon books. I know there is another novella about the Spellmonger's wedding and the honeymoon and things like that, but I did not include that. So between Warmage and Magelord, Min and Alia are now officially married. She is very, very pregnant and about to give birth. And so they start to settle in the land called Seven Door, which is now Min's domain. And the way that Min chooses to establish his kingdom and establish himself as a mage lord is so interesting to me. Like, I could not stop with this book. It was so interesting. I was compelled, I tell you, to keep going. And it was just so good. Min makes a lot of alliances, but we also have the neighbors that aren't so happy that a mage lord has moved in. And so we have conflicts with them as well, and those are hilarious and really, really fun. One of the biggest things that happens in this book is, well, there's a couple of things. Min finds out that Iseult is pregnant. She didn't tell him, but he finds out through the grapevine, through Pentandra, or Penny, that she's pregnant. And he kind of doesn't know what to do with the information at that point. Another thing that happens is Alia does give birth to a son. But the birth is very interesting because basically the baby did not want to come out. And so Min has to basically perform magic to help give birth to his son. And through that, there is a very fortuitous circumstance in which leads to the creation of what is called a snowstone. So essentially the spells that Min wove together so that Alia didn't die, so that his son lived, Manalian is his name, leads to him basically everything within, I think it's like a 2-mile radius, a really big radius of the castle, is now this pure white snow that actually amplifies your magic and makes it easier to use so that you don't tire as easily, and so you can do more spells and perform them. And as long as you have it on you, it still works. It works strongest in big quantities, obviously, but at the same time, if you take like a pouch of it with you, it also has the same effect. So he now has all of this. He establishes like a festival, or like a, what's it called? Like a fair every year, a magic fair, and that leads to some really interesting things as well. I'm trying to not spoil much of anything. I am telling you some key points here, but like when it comes to the big details, I'm trying to not share them in case you're going through this, even if you haven't read them. But yes, Magelord has been my favorite thus far. I just loved seeing how he established his local politics, who he decided to trust, and all of those kinds of things. I think it leads to some very interesting and unconventional decisions that might bite Min in the butt later. We don't know though. So last but not least, we have Knight's Mage. And Knight's Mage, we are not primarily following Minolin. So this is the first time we've done that. We're following Tyndall and Rondell, Min's his magicians in trainings, his apprentices, as he sends them off to go get further training from the academy. And we address all the rivalry that we see between the two, particularly in Magelord, about the way that they learn, the way that they excel in different things, how they're both strong in different things, gaining confidence or exuding more confidence. So it's very, very interesting. It's basically told in 4 parts. You have 2 from Tyndall's perspective and 2 from Rondell's perspective. I loved the way this book was laid out, the way that the passage of time worked, and the way that the perspective changed. You got the maximum amount of information. And so Terry did a really great job weaving this one into something that was clear and concise, but also very interesting and compelling. I read this entire beastie in in a weekend. My husband was surprised. He's like, how are you getting through this so fast? He's the one who got me into this series, if you didn't know that. But I honestly really enjoyed Knight's Mage as well. We do see that Tyndall is learning some bad habits from Min, we can say. Basically, he's with a lady who is married at one point. There's also a throuple moment in here, which made me really happy. I did not expect to find that in a fantasy that was not a romance. So thank you, Terry, for that. And the way that this is all coming together is just really fantastic. I continue to really enjoy each step of the way. and I cannot wait to see what's going to happen with everybody in High Mage. So with that said, I have kept this pretty short and snappy. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching. I will make sure that Terry's Facebook page is linked down below if you want to keep up to date with the series and you're not already following him there. And the other videos where I've talked about the Spellmonger series are linked in the corner so that you can get a better feel for the entire series. But overall, I'm still really enjoying it. Magelord and Knight's Mage were fantastic. I did not enjoy Warmage as much, but like frontline battle tactics are not always my favorite thing to read, so that's a me thing, not the book thing. The book was still very well done. So I just wanted to briefly sum that up for all of you, and thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.